Hello everyone, my name is Bill Hoy and this is another video presentation of mine. The title of this video is going to be Principles of Natural Law, How Natural Law Works, Solution for Our World. 2 plus 2 equals 4, folks. Simple and basic. We're going to talk about some simple and basic principles and how humans cannot make laws. Humans cannot unmake laws. Laws, actual true laws, are universal principles and they're fixed. What humans call what we call human laws are really just rules, just based on the will of humans. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about where rights come from, what is a right, what does it actually mean, what does a right actually mean? Well, simply, it means correct. You get an answer right on a test, you get that answer correct. A right means correct, and there's correct behaviors, and there's correct mathematics, correct physics experiments. And what does it mean to have a right? What does that mean? It's about ownership. We're going to talk about that. Why am I talking about this? Why am I doing this? Do I really think people are listening? No. Do I really think people care? No. People care more about football, folks. I used to care more about football. When I started learning this and I started realizing how dire our situation was, football didn't mean much to me anymore. So why am I really doing this? I'm doing this because our society is breaking down. Any comprehensive investigation into what's going on in our society and with our environment and life support systems, everything's breaking down. And there's going to be difficult times ahead. There's going to be difficult times ahead. And the biggest problem is many people may think in the case of this control structure breaking down, government breaking down, many people in the freedom movement would say, oh, well, that's great. Well, yeah, it's good, but not when people don't know and understand natural law and they're not ready for it. Not when people don't know and understand what rights are, where they come from, what actually is a right. When they don't understand those things, when they don't understand that you can't delegate a right you don't have, you can't give away your rights. I mean, you can do that willfully, but not in reality. We're going to talk about that. And people don't understand these things, and that's going to cause our situation to be pretty ugly. And many people think that if there's no actual system of violence to get in their way of engaging in behaviors that they're physically able to do or willfully able to do or whatever, that they can engage in those behaviors. And they're wrong. And regardless of whether, many people think, well, if I can get away with it, I can do it. Well, guess what? Even though you can get away with it, the natural law consequences, especially when it's in the aggregate and the bulk of people in a society doing it, which the bulk of people in a society don't understand natural law, so of course they're going to do it, especially in the absence of the violence of a ruling class, things could be really bad. Things could be really bad. And that's why I'm trying to teach this. So people, if we get a breakdown, things are breaking down, but it's hard to tell how exactly that's going to go along. But if we get a breakdown like the one I'm describing, where the power structure really breaks down and people are left to their own devices, we need people to know and understand natural rights. And it's imperative. It's imperative to building a new, good, positive society. It's imperative to maintaining some kind of quality of life. I want to maintain and we face immense challenges no matter what, but I would like to have people understand these things so we can, so my children can have some kind of quality of life in their future. Once again, we face immense challenges. Things are going to change. And Think about all these people out here that are hopelessly addicted to everything. I'm not even talking about the drugs and all that stuff. I'm talking about just to their favorite foods. If that were to get interrupted. A lot of people think what I'm talking about is extreme, is ridiculous, not worth thinking about. Well, guess what? Do an experiment. Do an experiment. Go without your favorite foods for a week. Go without your favorite drinks for a week. Go without whatever addictions you engage in for a week. See if you can even last that long. Most people won't even last that long. But see if you can last that long. And if you last that long, see how you feel at the end of that week. See how you feel. Assess your level of attachment to all those things. And whatever level that is, think about all the people out there that are way more attached than you are. Think about all the people out there that have no clue and aren't preparing mentally at all for what's coming. And I mean just mentally. I don't mean all that prepping stuff. I mean prepping's good. I don't mean getting a underground bunker or something. I mean preparing mentally for what's coming so we can handle this. So that's why I'm doing this, because I want people to understand that when people, just a small breakdown, if people can't get just the foods they enjoy, people are going to go crazy. People are going to go crazy. People are going to be going from house to house saying, hey, you have food? If you don't have food, well, they'll eat you. Once again, many people say, no way, that's too extreme. Folks, I'm telling you, do the experiment and assess your own level of attachment and imagine the masses of people that are just in la la land with no clue. They're not going to be ready for what's coming, and they're gonna freak out. And this is why I'm trying to get this information out, because I want to try to change this. I want a quality of life for the future. I want a chance. I want there to be a chance for my children's generation to continue the human species and continue life on this planet. I don't know, folks. This is serious stuff. This is very serious, and this is why I'm doing this presentation. Of course, I'm doing it so I can also just tell my kids that I tried to inform people. I tried. I can't just sit around and pretend that this isn't real. And I'll tell you, you got so many people out there, folks. Once again, these people are just clueless. They have no idea. And even when they hear some people trying to give them certain messages, they just reject it, because that's how far deep they are into their addictions and their habits and their normalcy bias and all that stuff. These people just embracing the new normal with open arms. I didn't embrace the old normal. I'm definitely not embracing this new normal. I don't even want to go back to the old normal. I want people to start knowing and understanding natural law and aligning their behaviors with it. That's what I want. That's what I want. But think about all these people. These people they're gonna go crazy. They're gonna go crazy. And it's gonna be ugly. And there's gonna be people that are gonna be desperate, that want the foods and to engage in addictions that they want to engage in, and then there's going to be the majority of them and the majority of all the other populace that's going to think that just because there's 20 of them and 5 of you, that they can take your stuff and that they can kill you, because they're not going to know and understand natural law. So that being said, let's get to the presentation, and I'll talk more about a lot of these concepts. I think I will in the end part of this presentation. So that's going to be it. This video is how natural law works, the solution for our world. And 2 + 2 = 4, and it's this simple. It's this simple, folks. This is not, I'm not going to be firing advanced math at you here. This is going to be simple mathematics. It's too easy. In fact, it shows just how stupid we are that we can't figure out how this works. I mean, it just shows how stupid and how horrifically parented we all are and programmed with all obedience as a virtue, and public schools, the garbage that we're taught in those public schools, and then the garbage that the television puts in our heads. So, without, we'll move on. Without further ado, we'll move on. So, how does a small number of people control large numbers of people? The answer is by controlling how they think. You know, people are under a spell. So, let's continue to look at this. Let's say in the United States, there are a total of 3 million politicians, judges, prosecutors, military members, and police. These are not exact numbers, folks. These are just guesses. The whole idea is to understand the numbers game. I'm trying to get you to understand the numbers game here. This is how the numbers game works. This is why we got to start getting online and start chirping about this. I'm trying to get this information out to as many people as possible. That's why online is the key, man. Just start getting online. Just start putting it out there, man. Could do your research, and you know, we're all going to make mistakes. So this is not exact. The idea about this is to understand how the numbers game works. Okay, this is what we have to understand. All right. So just an estimation. I'm saying there's 3 million. These are the basic enforcers and jailers and punishers. I'm saying 3 million politicians, they're the facilitators, judges, prosecutors, they're the punishers, military members and police, and of course your corrections guards, they're the enforcers and the jailers, the grunts of the slavery system. I'd say probably military members, you probably got like 500,000, maybe police, you got 1 million, something like that. I'm thinking 3 million. It might be less, but you know, you got a lot of, you know, almost every government agency in every locale has armed enforcers. So this could be, maybe it's more, I don't know, but the point is the numbers disparity here. And there remains 327 million citizens out of a total of 330 million. And yes, I know a lot of these people are ancillary members of these organizations. They do clerical duties or other duties and stuff like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the facilitators, punishers, and enforcers, the bulk of the teeth of the control system, the dogs of the control system, versus regular citizens. And I'm pretty sure this is a less than sign. I think I got this right. 3 million is less than 327 million. 3 million is less than 327 million. Okay? So how does 327 million people get controlled by 3 million? And it's you know, it's about mind control, and I didn't want to get too much into how this phenomenon goes in this video, because the main point of this video is to get people to start understanding the numbers of how all this works. I just want you to see the numbers, and how this works numbers wise in the aggregate. Okay, in the aggregate. Natural law works in the aggregate. It works in the aggregate as societies come together and become immoral. Those societies become more enslaved. We're going to get to that. So there you have it. I mean, you look at those numbers, just look at that. If 327 million decided they didn't want to be ruled anymore, that'd be it. If 327 million decided, you know what, we don't believe in government anymore. We don't believe any human being has the right to rule over us anymore, that'd be it. But the bottom line is, changing consciousness changes the whole dynamics. I mean, really, you'll hear a lot of the 51% number, where 51% of people in a society have a change in consciousness. The rest of the society falls in line. So, and that could go either way. So that's how natural law works. So I just wanted you to look at some of those numbers. And yeah, I'll probably do another video where I'll break down the numbers of the superstition and stuff like that. We can look into those numbers. But I just wanted you to see that. I just wanted you to see that it's a numbers game and we're being controlled. There's actually a good video by Larkin Rose. Larkin Rose has a very good book. It's The Most Dangerous Superstition. I've learned so much from that book. But he also has a video, I think it's called like The Tiny Dot or something. Look it up on YouTube if they still have it up there. But yeah, it's called The Tiny Dot, and he shows in dots how a tiny little teeny tiny minuscule dot rules like a huge amount of like dots. It's very comprehensive and it's very simple. It's a good video. So let's move on. So this is a little pie graph that I made just about, oh wow, that was close. Just about how natural law works on a societal basis in the aggregate. This is how it works, folks. This chart reflects the current situation in America. Folks, this is not exact. Once again, not exact. The idea is to show you just how the bulk of numbers work with natural law and how morality and freedom are directly connected and how immorality and enslavement are directly connected. As a society becomes more moral, it will become more free. But unfortunately, people don't want to be free because people live in fear. Oh no, if people are free, that'll mean they can do anything they want. What if they decide to kill me? Well, so you're going to be a slave? You're going to be a slave, and once again, Benjamin Franklin, something along the lines of, I said this to my mom the other day too when I was talking to her. Anyone who sacrifices liberty for safety will deserve neither and lose both. Something along those lines. So as a society becomes more immoral, once again, like Ben Franklin, sacrificing their liberty for safety, sacrificing their liberty because they're afraid of, I mean, all these boogeymen that we've been afraid of, the Soviets, oh no, they're coming to get us. Oh, here come the terrorists, and yes, there's a lot of the 9/11 folks. There's a lot going on there. What? Well, I gotta pause for a second. Okay. Started raining. My animals are outside. I had to get them. Still raining. I don't know. Got sun now. Oh, it looks like it's calming down. That's good. So how natural law works on a societal basis. Once again, like I said, these numbers are not exact, just trying to show you how this works. This chart reflects the current situation in America. As a society becomes more immoral, it will become more enslaved. That's just the natural, those are natural law principles. Those are principles. 2 + 2 = 4. That's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be. That's just the way the natural universal principles of the universe works for beings of higher capability, with the higher with the capabilities for higher intelligence, we're not accessing it at all. We're a bunch of dumbed down public school television watching morons. But these laws are in place for a purpose. The Creator puts these laws in place for a purpose, because I'm not religious, by the way. This is not I don't go to any church or anything. These are facts. Because species of beings with the capability to achieve higher intelligence can destroy themselves quickly if there's not universal codes of behavior to help them first thrive and to help them maintain to maintain the species of higher intelligence, as well as maintain their life support systems that they need. These laws are in place. These laws are absolutely, they have to be. And we continue to go against it. And when you go against it, which you can, we all have free will. We all have free will. The universe gave us free will. And we're using it to do immoral things. And as a result, we're becoming more enslaved. You don't think we're becoming more enslaved? People getting arrested for not wearing a mask? I'm going to get into that. I hope I remember. I want to just continue to hammer away the numbers, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about just take a look, the observable. I was just talking about that in my podcast, going over observable. Just observe. Look around. What do you think? So, a person who behaves immorally is enslaved themselves, okay? But if just a small number of people in a society are behaving immorally, while those individuals are enslaved psychologically and possibly physically, the aggregate of that society will still be free because it's a numbers game. That society is not going to be enslaved. But that's not the case in this pie chart. And once again, there's that 51%. You know, the change of consciousness there. You got Area 51, a lot of occult mockery out there, a lot of 51s out there. Look into it. Don't believe me, look it up for yourself. Always look stuff up for yourself. Don't believe a word I say. I mean, you know, don't believe a word I say, but look into it for yourself. Don't just not believe and just don't not look into this. At least, please, just look into this. You start seeing it and get out there and start trying to tell people about this. So here you go. Completely immoral, 60% of, you know, based on 330 million. I'm pretty sure this math is correct. I mean, so you got 100, you know, that's 60% of the United States. That's 198 million people. 198 million people. Completely immoral. What is completely immoral? Let's just say you got your, you know, the whole 3 million I talked about earlier, all the enforcement people, and then you got the people who heavily support them. Then you got, you know, the people who are immoral but non-government necessarily, and the people who support them, and the people who mostly enthusiastically support this system. All your voters. Voting is violence, folks. Politics is violence. Politics isn't you know, getting along and being peaceful. Politics is violence. Voting is violence. So you got all your voters. You got I mean, that's 100 million. You know, you got you're just a lot of your people who, you know, I think I described earlier that while they're not big enthusiasts of all these politicians and stuff, they still, are have, believe that there's different races of humans and that people should still be ruled over and certain people should be eliminated and stuff like that. So I'd say that's your completely immoral. So once again, this is just, it doesn't matter. Because really, folks, I'll tell you right now, the real numbers on this, 99% I would just simplify it to 99% immoral, 1% moral. And that's even, I mean, moral, 10%, 33 million? No way. This is just for numbers. So you got partially immoral, maybe some people who do nice things, but they still participate in immorality in whatever ways, directly, indirectly. Then somewhat immoral, or just, a couple things they still participate in immoral stuff. And then you got the moral people who are all the way moral. They, the 60, 20, and 10% of all the immorals, they believe heavily still in the monetary system, or maybe they're still heavy duty meat eaters and stuff like that. Whereas your morals are moving away from the monetary system, not wanting to eat meat. And let me tell you something, 33 million? No way. No way. Not even 3,300,000. I'd say maybe probably like 30,000 maybe. But once again, this is just, I mean, that's how bad the situation is. But this is just to give you an idea of the numbers here. And that's what this is showing. And once again, like I said, you could probably do just 99-1 immoral to moral. But trying to be optimistic, folks. But this isn't even close, really. This is just, I'm just showing you how, look at this. You got 60%. You got a total of 90% to 10% immoral to moral. And even though some people may be partially and somewhat immoral, just the 60% alone is enough to keep it. Once again, remember, 51%. I mean, just the 60% alone is enough to make your society completely immoral. That's how this works. And I'll probably do another video where I do smaller breakdowns, because that's what a lot of researchers try to, get people to do, is look at things on an individual basis. Like we were talking about the delegating of rights. Look at things on a one-to-one basis. If you can't do something on a one-to-one basis, it's not going to work in the aggregate. And you get a small group of people together, and you can see if you got 10 people, if 8 of them are immoral, you're going to have an immoral group. And you're going to have slavery. But that's how this works. I just wanted to give you an idea with the whole nine of situation. And what is the result here? America enslaved. Okay, you got America enslaved. At what point are we going to say, you know what? I think we are enslaved. I mean, when taxes go up to 100% of what we make, when people are being arrested in mass for not wearing masks. I mean, it's already happening. Mask laws, folks. Not putting on a mask. People have been getting fined, arrested. That's enslavement, folks, for not wearing a mask. And you got your completely immoral people that think there's nothing wrong with that. You got your completely immoral people that think, yeah, they shouldn't be wearing masks. Throw them in cages because they won't wear a mask. Because they're going to get somebody killed. Oh, really? Folks, believing in government is going to get somebody killed. It's going to get a lot of people killed. Hello, Nazi Germany, Soviet Union, Mao's China. Better take heed of this chart. Okay,
What rights do we own? Yes, folks, own. We own our rights. Now I'm going to explain this. Let's go to the first bullet point. All fundamental universal rights are birthrights endowed by the Creator, God. This is not a religion. Folks, not a religion. Religions are dogmatic. They're rigid. Religions have fundamental tenets. You start there and you stop there. You get dictated to in a religion. You get told, you're dictated to in a religion. Natural fundamental universal principles, you start at a fundamental base and you observe and discover into infinity. It's not a stop think. Religions in a sense, figuratively speaking, keep you in a box, whereas natural law, you just go to infinity. Natural universal rights, laws are fixed. Humans don't make laws. Humans don't unmake laws. Humans make rules based on their will. So anything can be a religion. Keep that in mind. Religious thinking can apply to anything, because religious thinking, once again, is thinking that stops critical thinking. It stops observation and discovery. You have certain boundaries, in a sense. Spirituality, natural law, universal rights, infinite. So all fundamental universal rights are birthrights endowed by the Creator. You're born with these rights. I'll never thank a soldier for my rights. My rights are mine. My rights are birthrights. I'm not going to thank him for, as is claimed, defending my rights either. It's my duty to defend my rights. It's my responsibility. No matter what my situation is. Even if someone helps me, even if someone say like I'm incapacitated in some way, I have a broken leg or something, and someone comes over and helps me fight for my rights, it's still my responsibility to fight for my rights, and that person didn't give me my rights. My rights are mine, they're birthrights, endowed by the Creator. Next bullet point, all correct actions are rights. This is true whether the behavior is a fundamental universal principle or subjective and situational. Like in the case of, say I'm working on a construction site and I'm framing out a window, I'm using a hammer to hit nails, that's correct action. I'm not hitting somebody over the head with the hammer. I'm hitting nails with the hammer. I'm nailing in wood for a window framing. This is a hypothetical. And that's a correct action. And however, let's just say for this example, I'm nailing in the wrong size wood, and I'm doing it incorrectly. So from a fundamental universal principles perspective, I'm not harming another sentient being. However, from a subjective and situational perspective, I'm not fulfilling I'm not doing my job correctly. Then of course, say the boss comes over and sees that the window is incorrect, and he says, all right, Bill, I thought you could do this. I thought you could measure for a window, and obviously you can't, so I'm going to terminate you. That's a correct action. It would be incorrect if he ripped the hammer out of my hand and smashed me over the head with it. But no, the boss just terminated me because I couldn't fulfill the job. And that's a correct action. That's a correct action by the boss. And so from a fundamental universal perspective, the boss is not harming another sentient being. And subjective and situational, the boss is doing something correctly because it's his job to make sure things are done correctly. And if it's not done, if things aren't done correctly from a subjective and situational standpoint, the boss has to make a decision on what they want to do about that. All correct actions. All correct actions we own. We'll get to that. Let's go to the next bullet point. A fundamental universal correct behavior is the initiation of an action by a person, or when someone supports the initiation of an action by another person that does not harm another sentient being. Let's go to the next bullet point to completely summarize that, and that is do not initiate or support the initiation of harm. So let's just review. Our fundamental universal rights are birthrights, endowed by the Creator. All correct actions are rights. All correct actions are rights, principally or subjective and situationally. And fundamental universal correct behaviors are do not initiate or support the initiation of harm. Yes, folks, supporting the initiation of harm. All the people that support the police and support the military, I know people don't want to hear this. But unfortunately, the truth is, militaries are killing machines, and they're destroyers. Militaries destroy all life. That's what militaries do. All militaries, not just the American military, all militaries. And you're wrong if you're supporting the military. It's just the truth. It's just the truth. I want to be very clear that it is not your right to support violent organizations or any other people who initiate harm to other sentient beings, and the military, all militaries absolutely initiate harm to all life, to the planet itself. Folks, you can't even quantify just the pollution of the planet from the US military, just the US military. Police, folks. I support my police. All these people on the right side of the dichotomy, the divide and conquer strategy, the conservatives, the right wingers, the right wing of the bird of prey. And they're going to be supporting the police, and the police, they don't realize that while there are policemen who do have good intentions, there's military people with good intentions too. I mean, I didn't join the military to murder people, but that was going to be my job. With police, it's just the truth that even if with their good intentions, even police that do good things, even police that aren't overly aggressive in their enforcement of the frivolous rules that they call laws that the politicians make, okay? No policeman can ever be a truly good person if they're working for an organization that the fundamental, the job. No policeman can ever be a good person when they're working for an organization whose primary job function is to follow the dictates, orders, and they call them to enforce, they euphemize it as enforce laws, no matter what those laws are and what kind of harm those laws cause. Even if you're not a policeman that aggressively, enjoys doing that or something like that. You're working for an organization that the primary mission of that organization is to enforce laws no matter what harm those laws do. And the unfortunate truth is no policeman can ever be a good person while they're working for an organization like that. We can have police-like people in society that assist people in protecting their rights. We can have that. But their primary job cannot be to enforce laws, what are called laws, rules. No matter what those rules, if those rules harm people or not. You can never be a truly good person if you're working for an organization like that, especially on doing the enforcement yourself. Do not initiate or support the initiation of harm. And no, it's not your right. Many people think that it's their right to support organizations or other people who harm others. And that's not your right, because that's not a correct action. That's not a correct action. A correct action is not initiating or supporting the initiation of harm. That's a correct action. All correct actions are rights. Next bullet point. All humans own right, correct answers to problems. And the next bullet point, all humans own right behaviors. When I write down 2 + 2 = 4, that's a right, correct answer to that problem. I own that. I own that correct answer. When I do not initiate harm to another sentient being, let's just say I choose to ingest a proscribed substance, which I don't use any of those called illegal drugs. Or I guess it's legal now with marijuana and whatever. I really don't care. Not because I don't use the drugs. Not that I don't care because I don't use drugs. I don't care because legal and illegal doesn't mean shit to me. Okay? Because I know and understand fundamental universal rights are birthrights endowed by the Creator. I understand that all correct actions are rights. I understand that a correct action is not initiating or supporting the initiation of harm. I don't give a shit about legal or illegal. It means nothing to me. Other than legal and illegal just means, basically, illegal to me means that I could have violence engaged against me if I'm doing something. That's why I'm conscious of illegal things, because I'm conscious of the fact that they're backed by violence. And once again, everyone knows a good policeman. Well, guess what? They're part of an organization that supports the initiation of harm. It enforces laws no matter, whether those laws harm somebody. So, all humans own right, correct behaviors. Okay? All humans own right answers. So 2 + 2 = 4, I own that. That's a fundamental universal right. It's a birthright. Not harming another sentient being. Let's say I put a handgun on my side and decide to go out to, I don't know, some store, a stupid Walmart or something. And of course, especially here in New Jersey, I'm going to have a firearm on me and I'm not going to be wearing a mask. Oh boy, look out. Look out. Here comes public enemy number 1. A guy carrying a firearm for a self-defense, and oh my God, and now he's aggressing against people because he's not wearing a mask. That's what people think. Because people don't know what rights are. People actually think that they allow these public mouthpieces to trick them into thinking that not wearing a mask outside, you're initiating harm to another sentient being. That's garbage. I mean, they don't put it like that, but that's garbage. Me not choosing to wear a mask is a correct action. I'm not harming another sentient being. You're concerned about your health, well then you wear a mask then. You're so concerned about your health, well you don't go out then, if you're that concerned. Good God. You're so concerned about your health. Maybe you should stop eating fucking McDonald's. You're so concerned about your health. Maybe you should stop taking all the pharmaceutical drugs that you take. So concerned about your health. Maybe you should learn how to rest, relax, change your diet. Get out of my face. All humans own right behaviors. We own them. Birthrights. I really want you to understand this, folks. I really want you to understand this. We got birthrights. They're endowed by the Creator. What are these rights? They're correct actions. They're correct behaviors. They're correct answers to problems. From the fundamental principle to the subjective and situational. All correct answers to problems, correct behaviors, we own them. We own them. Next bullet point. Humans do not own wrongs. You do not own a wrong. That's one of the biggest problems. People think it's their right to own a wrong. You do not own a wrong. This is about ownership. We're talking about ownership. My right behaviors are my property. Humans do not own wrongs. Wrongs are acquired by will only. That's just somebody's will. It's not their right. That's their will. Because it's not their right, because it's not right. Something has to be right to be a right. Something has to be correct to be a right. Do not initiate or support the initiation of harm. I'm going back to different bullet points at points in time here in this slide. Jumping back and forth. Because this all, I'm trying to put this together as best I can. Really try to think about this and get this deep into your thinking. Observe and discover. Observe and discover. Once again, birthrights, endowed by the Creator. Correct actions are rights. Those rights, as long as we're not supporting or initiating ourselves or supporting the initiation of harm to other beings, those are our rights. Both fundamental and subjective and situational. Those are rights. We own them. Any right behavior that I do is mine. And anyone who tries to engage in violence against me to get me to stop that right behavior or whatever is engaging in a wrong. Ingesting a substance into my body is my right. Carrying a firearm for my self-defense is my right. That is a right. I'm not harming another sentient being, not wearing a mask. Despite what all these idiots think. You're not harming another sentient being. Learn how viruses work, morons. Viruses and bacteria are a natural part of our homeostasis, human homeostasis. I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but I read enough to know that what you're being told in the media is crap. Humans do not own wrongs. You can't own a wrong. It is not you can't make a wrong a right. Last bullet point, universal rights cannot be made into wrongs and vice versa. You can't make a right a wrong and a wrong a right. That's illegal and legal, folks. That's what that is. That's why I don't pay attention as far as I don't acknowledge its legitimate existence. I only acknowledge legal and illegal from a perspective of, is violence going to be engaged against me? That's all. Because that's what it is. That's what legal and illegal is, folks. It's just violence. We'll allow you to do this. We won't engage in violence against you. But if you do this, we'll engage in violence against you. And folks, let me tell you something. What they call arresting, kidnapping, and human trafficking somebody, that's what I call it. Folks, when you remove a person, when you take a person's bodily right to use their body correctly from a fundamental, universal, and subjective and situational perspective, that's assaulting somebody. When you take somebody's hands and bind them, limiting their ability to engage in right actions, you are assaulting them. And that's what arrest is. And that's what legal and illegal is. Just violence. It's violence. Because government is violence. Government in the sense of human rulership. I've been saying this a lot lately. I used to say good government. You hear that garbage. People talk about good government. Good government is no government. But actually, to put it better, I would say good government is self-government. I govern myself, I govern nobody else, and no one else has the right to govern over me. That's not a right. That's not a correct behavior. To threaten someone and put someone under duress is not a correct behavior. It's a wrong. Taxation. All these people who claim, that they're proud taxpayers, when anybody knows that as soon as, if these politicians told them they didn't have to pay taxes anymore, they wouldn't pay in a minute. Stockholm Syndrome, dude. I'm telling you. Supporting the program of taxation in any way is supporting the initiation of harm. That's not your right. That's a wrong. That is a wrong. It's not a right. You do not own a wrong. That's just your will. It's not your right. That's your will. People don't know this. People don't know this. People don't know that it's not a right, that it's just will. That's all that is. A wrong is not a right, obviously. That's just will. It's your will. Rights cannot be made into wrongs. That's the illegal and legal garbage. Just because something's illegal doesn't mean it's immoral, and vice versa. No, humans do not own wrong behaviors. And people just don't get this. So let's just review this and run this down. I mean, once again, pretty sure I mentioned that in the last, previously in this video, we showed how we showed how slavery works in the aggregate. As more people don't understand this slide here, we get slavery. Showed the numbers. Showed how a small amount of people are able to control the masses because the masses do not know that they own their rights. The masses do not know that our universal rights, they don't even know that they're universal. They don't even know. They just think humans make what they call laws. People actually think that humans make laws. You can't make, no human can ever make a law. They can will them to call them laws, but that's just their will. That's just a rule by human will. A law is a fixed principle that cannot be changed or altered. I think altered means changed, but so people do not know that rights are universal and they're fixed. People do not know that they're birthrights and they're endowed by the Creator, not by politicians, not by soldiers. When they tell us that thank a soldier for your freedom, folks, guess what that's called? Communism, socialism. That's what that is. That's socialism. People don't know that correct behaviors are rights. People don't know that a correct behavior is a behavior that does not initiate harm to another sentient being or supporting the initiation of harm to other sentient beings. People don't understand that we own correct actions, rights. Right, correct. You get something right, you take a test and you get the answer right, you get it correct. A right means correct. People don't understand that. A right is a correct behavior. The Bill of Correct Behaviors in the Constitution. Bill of Rights, Bill of Correct Behaviors. We're going to get into that a little bit. We're going to get into that next slide, right and wrong. You know, what is a right, what is a wrong? So I'm really just trying to hammer this home, and we're going to go to the next slide. People just, rights are correct actions. I mean, I keep saying this, but I have to keep hammering. And from a fundamental universal perspective, do not harm another sentient being, and also subjective and situational. You want behaviors are rights and wrongs. But of course, we always have to have the fundamental first. Anytime we go to do a behavior, it must not harm another sentient being to be correct. And then you got the subjective and situational, which I explained. Which even the subjective and situational, if you're doing something incorrect, I mean, once again, this is what natural law is about. It's about observation and discovery, and this is the stuff that has to be ironed out. The subjective and the situational is, can get a little, get some gray areas, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about that. I'm gonna talk a little bit about that. So I think I pretty much talked about. I think I pretty much got this. All humans own right answers to problems. All humans own right behaviors, and humans do not own wrongs. Wrongs are just by will only. You supporting the military, you're doing that by your will. That's not your right. That's my right. No, it's not. People think that these things are their rights. They're not. It's not your right to support the initiation of harm to other sentient beings. That's not your right. That's just your will. And there are consequences for not aligning our free will with fundamental universal rights. Those consequences in the aggregate is slavery. That's what we have. So, I think I'm going to move on. So what is a right? Well, we have two columns here. We have rights and wrongs, and we have 5 rows. And let's start with the first row. In the rights column, owning a firearm. It's a right, folks. It's a right. It's a correct action to own a firearm. It's correct. A right is a correct behavior. When it comes to behaviors, because that's what we're talking about here. We're mainly talking about behaviors, but I'm also adding we're adding fundamental moral behaviors, but I'm also including other regular behaviors into this equation. So once again, to the wrongs column, first row, refusing to permit someone to own a firearm. forcibly take a firearm from someone. Those are wrongs. Those are wrongs. Back to the rights column. Row number 2. Using a hammer to hit nails and build a window frame. That's a right. It's a correct action. I'm not harming another sentient being. To the wrongs column. Using a hammer to hit someone who is not aggressing towards you. That's a wrong. That's a wrong. Back to the rights column. 3rd row. Using a pan, a skillet to cook food. Okay? Let's go to the wrongs. Using that pan to hit someone who is not aggressing towards you. Now let's go to these. These are two. Those are fundamental moral behaviors. But let's go to subjective and situational behaviors. Let's go back to column. We're in column 1, row number 2. Using a hammer to hit nails and build a window frame. Okay, well, I'm not hitting, I'm not harming another sentient being. Good, but if I'm doing that incorrectly, and as far as the subjective and situational, the requirements of the job, if I'm not building the window correctly, that's a wrong. That's a wrong. Using a pan, a skillet to cook food. I'm not using it to harm somebody. I'm not taking that hot food and throwing it on somebody. But if I'm cooking a meal and I'm supposed to, I add too much lemon or too much Marsala wine or something like that, and I mess the meal up, well, that's a wrong. And of course, when it comes to food and taste and stuff like that, there's a whole lot of, you want to talk about subjective, a whole lot of that there. But once again, it's still a wrong. That instance, subjective instance and situational instance, is wrong. But once again, I didn't harm another sentient being, and I own that behavior. And once again, in subjective situations, it could be just for that particular situation, not universally. Once again, folks, natural law is just infinite, man. It's just infinite. And nobody wants to think about this stuff. No one even wants to think about this stuff. And this is what we have to be thinking about, folks. These are things, I'm putting things in front of you, not trying to say I'm right on everything. When it comes to fundamental, universal, fixed moral principles, I say I'm absolutely right. But when you get into the subjective, it gets a bit hairy. That's why we have to start talking about this stuff. We have to start talking about this stuff. Instead, what do people want to talk about? Fucking football and shit. I mean, it's unbelievable. So we're in the rights column, number 4 row. Speaking out against injustices to all people. That's a right. That's a correct action. Now to the wrongs. Supporting injustices against people, and I'll add censoring people. Folks, this censorship stuff, all you people that, all you order followers on the lower levels, just quote unquote doing your job, participating in this censorship, you're engaging in an incorrect behavior. And it's not your right, that's your will. It's not your right, that's your will. And because you feel the need, you have to earn a paycheck. I understand where those feelings come from, but that doesn't make it right. That doesn't make, once again, a wrong into a right. It doesn't make a wrong into a right. Can't make a, when it comes to objective moral principles, you cannot make a wrong a right. And just because your boss told you, delegated it to you, doesn't make it a right. Because that boss doesn't have that right. And so many people want to say, well, it's their companies, they can do that. Not when it's a public forum, folks. Not when it's a public forum. Public forums are public property. That's my understanding. Ownership is ownership. So, talk about ownership. We're in the rights column. I think we're in number 5 here. Row 5. Ingesting a substance into the body. That's ownership right there, man. That's a correct behavior, and you own that. That's a correct behavior, and we all own that. We own that correct behavior. It's a birthright endowed by creation. It is a correct behavior. Is not involving harm to another sentient being. Now let's go to the wrong. Kidnapping someone who is in a possession of a substance, supporting this behavior. I don't care, folks. So many people say, well, I don't use these drugs. Neither do I. I used to. I never used the opiates and stuff. But I I don't use these drugs. But still, when we support the behavior of kidnapping people who are possessing substances, we are, in a sense, incorrectly surrendering the ownership of our bodies as well. And once again, you can't actually give up the ownership of your body. Once again, you can't give away a right. You can will that. It can be your will. And most of these people don't even realize they're doing this. A lot of it's unconsciously. It's happening. This isn't unconsciously happening to people. People aren't even conscious of this. But you can will the ownership of your body to someone else, but it will never be a right. It's a wrong, and it will never be true in nature. And there's consequences for that. And as more people in a society support kidnapping people for possessing substances, that society is erroneously willing their bodily ownership away, and the consequences of that is slavery. Consequences are slavery. As more people engage in a more immoral behavior, that society will become more enslaved. These are actual observable laws, and we'll get to that I think we're going to get to that in the next slide. And then last row here in the rights, having sex with someone and getting paid for it. Nothing wrong with that, folks. Nothing wrong with that. And of course, people want to get into, oh, well, what if the person has something like AIDS and knows they have it? Folks, I'm not even getting into that. Because those kinds of situations are extremely rare. We're talking about fundamental rights, and having sex with someone and getting paid for it is a correct action. That is a right. And into the wrongs, supporting and participating in the kidnapping of what these people are called prostitutes. I'll tell you, folks, prostitute is a person, from my understanding, is someone who basically gives away their soul. Gives away their, once again, you can't even do that, but someone who wills to give away their souls and wills to give away their rights in exchange for something extrinsic, giving away something intrinsic to get something extrinsic. I mean, real prostitutes are kind of like Satanists. And they're these people in the media. They're the real prostitutes. What's the term? Prostitutes, I think. Right? These people in the media, man. People in the media. Just getting their scripts and just not even, knowing what they're saying is wrong, or just not wanting to know. That's a real prostitute. So let's move on. Of course, these politicians, a lot of them are prostitutes as well. So here we are, correct versus incorrect. Correct versus incorrect, folks. And here we have 4 columns with 4 rows. And first column is problem, second is answer, third is correct, right, or incorrect, not a right, and then the last column is why. And the first row, we have the problem of 2 plus 2, and we have the answer of 4, and we have correct. That is a right. That's what rights are, folks. That's what rights are. That's correct. It's a right. If something is right, correct, it's a right. The Bill of Rights, the Bill of Correct Behaviors. And of course, once again, the Constitution. It's a schizophrenic slavery document. Has the Bill of Rights, and then in another part, the Constitution will tell you that your habeas corpus is a privilege, and that they can take it away whenever they want, because that's what a privilege is. 2 plus 2, 4, correct. That is a right. That is my right. That's my right. I own that. When I get something right, I own that, as long as it's right, from a fundamental principle perspective. Now, once again, when you get into the subjective, like I talked about a little bit with the, making food for somebody, you get a little back and forth there. But I'm talking about fundamental moral, objective, fixed laws. And when I get that right, when I get that fundamental universal principle of 2 plus 2 equals 4, that is correct, and that is my right, and I own that right. Why? It is fundamentally true, and a person can observe this. Well, it's elementary, but by counting their fingers. A bit elementary, not trying to be a wise guy, but I'm just trying to keep this as simple as possible to show you how this is observed. 2 plus 2 is 4. You observe it by counting your fingers. As more people engage in immoral, and more people engage in support in immoral behavior, that society becomes more enslaved. You observe it. You see it. You can see the slavery in our society. You can see it. All the mask laws, the social distancing, and I don't care about these other states appearing to move away from it or whatever is going on there. Okay? Wherever you have a state, you have slavery. And that's something that people will never ever want to even try to look into. But once again, 2 plus 2 is 4. I own that. Now let's go to second row. Problem, 2 plus 3. Answer, 6. That's incorrect. Incorrect. That's not a right. I don't own that. I don't own that. I could will it to say, you know what? I'm going to say 2 plus 3 equals 6. My checkbook's going to be messed up. I'm going to have some problems counting money. But that is incorrect. That is not my right, because it's not correct. 2 plus 3 is not 6. I can will that. I can say that's my right, but it's not truly right. And I can't delegate that to somebody. Once again, I can tell someone, hey, 2 plus 3 is 6. I can tell someone, but it's still, I can't give them that right. Here you go. I'm giving you this right. 2 plus 3 equals 6, because it's not a right. It's a wrong. You cannot delegate a wrong. You cannot delegate a right you do not have. Why? A person cannot declare this to be true. Well, you can declare it, but it's not going to be objectively true. Okay? And this is observable. That's definitely right. Count your fingers. Count your fingers. Think about it. If more and more people in a society decided to willfully declare, once again in the Y column there, I said cannot declare. You can declare that, but it won't be. You can't declare it to be true because it's not true. You can declare it to be true, but it's not true. But as more people in a society decided that they're going to go with 2 + 3 = 6, you're going to have you're going to have a pretty messed up society. Talk about having the economic problems we're having now. If people can't even understand correct fundamental principles of mathematics, we're going to be really screwed up. And that would be observable. You'd be able to see it. So, row 3, problem. Someone is attempting to physically assault me and kidnap me for not obeying their orders. Answer: I use physical force with a firearm to repel the attack and the attacker dies from their wounds. Correct. That's a right. That is correct. Now, where do we get into people with their will? Well, many people will say, how can I best say this? First thing, it's correct. It's a right. That's my right. I own it. I own that right. But people will say, well, wait a second. Who is attempting to physically assault you and kidnap you? Is it a non-governmental street thug? Mugger? Well, then in that case, they'll say, okay, you can use physical force with the firearm and repel the attack. Let me tell you something. Here in New Jersey, you even carry a firearm on you. You're going to have you could have violence engaged against you. Forget about actually using it to defend yourself. That's how enslaved we are here in New Jersey. That's how enslaved we are here in New Jersey. Unbelievable. You even carry a firearm, you're already going against the will of the ruling class and their enforcers. Once again, you're doing something correct. That's your right. And the ruling class and their enforcers can't take that right from me. They can't take that right from me. They can engage in violence against me, use their will to engage in violence against me, but they can't take that right from me. Because that's right. That right is my birthright. It's my birthright to carry a firearm on me for my defense. It's my birthright, endowed by the Creator. And as long as we here in New Jersey and other states accept the fact that, how can I best say this? We are going to use our will to say that carrying a firearm for your self-defense is not a right. We're going to make it a right into a wrong. We're going to have slavery, and you can observe it. And many people will say, well, it's okay to use physical force with any kind of physical force against a non-governmental, non-representative of the idea of government in the idea, from the standpoint of human rulership and obedience to that rulership. You can, I'm thinking of so many things here. Got so many thoughts flooding through me. Kind of lost my track, but People will think it's okay to use physical force against a non-governmental, but against the governmental enforcer, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to use physical force. You're not supposed to engage in a right action. You're supposed to allow the person, say it's a police officer who's physically assaulting you. Let me tell you something, folks. Putting handcuffs on somebody is assault. You're violating someone's physical body. That's their property. Binding someone's hands together, that's violating their free will. That's an assault. That's assault on their physical body. You're changing the component of someone's physical body when you bind their hands. That's an assault. And then, of course, you're taking someone away against their will from wherever they are. That's kidnapping. And you're taking them somewhere away from their location, and that's trafficking. That's human trafficking. I say this to people, they look at me like I'm nuts. That's where we are in our society. People can't even get that concept. But of course, if it was a non-governmental person doing that, they could absolutely understand that. That's a superstition. It's a superstition. That's what that is, superstition. And that's what destroys that's what destroys moral free will. Superstitions. And people think that when governmental representatives, enforcers, are physically assaulting you and wanting to kidnap you, that you're supposed to allow them. And then the correct thing to do is go in front of a judge and beg them for mercy. And I don't know, folks. You think our founding fathers would have done that? Think our founding fathers would have done that with the British? Somehow I don't think so. I think we've come a long way from our basic values of what this country was founded on. Unfortunately, our value system is based on death cult militarism. And the idea that patriotism is fighting in wars and joining a military. Our whole entire society is based on that death cult military ideology. And we've lost our identity, which started and ended very quickly back in 1776. And that is, even if someone's deemed to be a legitimate enforcer, if someone's attempting to physically assault me and kidnap me for not obeying their orders, I have the right to use physical force in any way to repel the attack. And we all know how that goes. If a law enforcer comes up to you, any kind of governmental enforcer comes up to you and they want to kidnap you, and you use physical force, I mean resist, I mean like really resist, I mean like fight and try to kill the person, repel the attack by any means necessary, put it that way. You're deemed to be incorrect. And that's, once again, making a wrong a right. That you're supposed to just let them kidnap you. And I actually got off track. What I was trying to say is, I understand that once you in any way, let's put it this way, if you actually use real physical force, like serious, deadly kind of physical force against any representative of government, law enforcement, I mean, we all know that, your life's over. Whether you win or lose, your life's over. Whether you win or lose, life's over. I understand that. All I'm trying to tell people is just what the truth is, that's all. And why? Because self-defense is a necessity for the survival of species with the capability for higher intelligence, folks. Self-defense is an absolute necessity. We're not going to survive. Our species isn't going to survive, and most definitely not thrive. That's really what I would say. It's more like it's survival, yes, absolutely survival, and to thrive. We will never thrive if we think that, self-defense is a subjective thing. that, you know, we should defend ourselves against these groups, but against this group, no, you don't defend yourself. Self-defense is a necessity for the survival of our species and for our species to thrive. I mean, a group of people that don't defend themselves is a group of people that's not going to be around for long. These laws are fixed principles. They're in effect for all beings with the capability to achieve higher intelligence. Universal. And people just can't accept this. You know, if it's your so-called non-governmental carjacker, non-governmental mugger, and I use physical force against them and kill them, I'm a hero. I get a good citizenship award. But if I do that against a legitimate, so-called legitimate law enforcer, people want me to be in jail for the rest of my life. This is serious stuff. Once again, folks, all I'm trying to tell people is the truth. That's all I'm trying to tell people. Just trying to tell people the truth. Anyone who aggresses towards you, tries to physically assault you, you have the right to defend yourself against them. I'm just trying my best here to make points, help people understand this stuff. So let's go to the last row. I think residents in a house in my neighborhood are engaging in behaviors that are forbidden by my ruler. Answer: I decide to forcefully barge into their residence. A resident in the home points a gun at me and I kill them. That is incorrect. It's not a right. I don't own that right. That is incorrect. Why? Entering someone's residence by force is an initiation of aggression. The resident is acting in self-defense. And I cannot delegate that right to someone else as well. I can tell someone else, hey, you need to go over to that house and kick their door in and take this person out of that house and bring him back to my house, and we're going to put him in my basement in a cage because he's you know, our ruler has forbidden, you know, him from doing the things he's doing in his residence. I can tell someone to do that, and that person can go and do that, but that's all will. That's not a right, because that's incorrect behavior. It's not a right. We don't own that. Even if we do the behaviors, even if I do those behaviors myself, that's not a right. It's incorrect. It's incorrect behavior from a fundamental universal moral standpoint, and that's not a behavior that I own. That's not a behavior that I own, because it's incorrect. I can't say I own that because it's incorrect. I can will it, but I can't own it. The resident is actually acting correctly. And folks, this is another situation. This happens a lot. 80,000 SWAT team raids in America a year. And look at what our U.S. military is doing over in other lands. Invading people's countries and kicking people, you know, going door to door, house to house, and barging into people's homes and terrorizing them, sometimes even killing them. Taking people away. That's terrorism. Any harming of another sentient being is terrorism. Okay? It's war on terror stuff. War on, you know, that's all that groupthink kind of stuff. That's all that manipulating the minds of the mass mind. These cliches they throw out there that can have millions of meanings. These these vague slogans they put out. That's all devised to manipulate the masses in the way people think, as far as they base their thoughts on what other people are doing in greater society, manipulating the masses. And people supporting militaries, folks. People supporting militaries. Militaries are killing machines. All militaries, not just the U.S. military. And when you have that, you're going to have slavery. So, I think I pretty much made my point as best I could. So we'll go to the conclusion. Okay, folks. Bill Hoy here again. We're going to wrap this up here. It's going to be the last slide. Some final comments. Most important, I'd say. Bullet point. First one. A behavior must be aligned with the universal laws of objective morality to be a right or correct. If so, the person owns that right behavior. There it is. All behaviors must be in line with universal objective laws of morality. And that means all those behaviors must not involve the initiation or the support of initiation of harm to another sentient being. And folks, just want to be very clear here. I put a little note in during the pie graph section there, alluding to this, but this is a journey. Everything we do in our society involves some kind of harm. Can't even live in society without harm in something, in some way, in whatever way. So I'll get to that. I'll talk a little bit about that in the last bullet point, but let's just make sure we're fully clear here. A behavior must be aligned with the universal laws of objective morality in order to be a right. In order for a behavior to be my right that I own, it has to not initiate harm to another sentient being, and also the behavior must not be supporting the initiation of harm to other sentient beings. And I want to say something here. So I also want to mention that being willfully ignorant is incorrect behavior. And especially being willfully ignorant, let me put it this way, being willfully ignorant of behaviors of others or your own behaviors that contribute to harm to other sentient beings. And a lot of people think, once again, I went over this, that that's their right to be willfully ignorant. No, not when it comes to the initiation of harm. When it comes to the initiation and the support of the initiation of harm to others, you don't have the right to be willfully ignorant of that. That's not your right. You don't own that. You don't own that. You want to be willfully ignorant of something that doesn't initiate harm to another sentient being, well, then you go ahead, I would say. I mean, no one should be willfully ignorant, especially of any fixed universal laws or principles, but especially when it comes to behavior. And once again, even with math, if you want to be willfully ignorant and say, you know what, I want 2 + 3 to be 6, and I'm going to be willfully ignorant of the fact that it's 5. That's not your right. You don't own that. It's your will. It's not your right. We've been over this. I'm just wrapping this up here. Just trying to make this clear. So let's just wrap it up, and that is, like I said, a behavior must be aligned with universal objective laws of morality in order to be a right or correct. Okay? So let's take a look at what else we got here. Second bullet point. As more people in a society understand and align their behaviors with natural law, that society will become less enslaved. So that's just covering the pie chart there. You know, the pie chart. And seeing how the numbers work, folks. It's not magic in the sense of like the magic you see in like Hollywood movies and stuff like that. It's magic in a different sense. It's psychology. It's math. I mean, this is mathematics. Once again, I know I keep belaboring this, but I mean, you can see it. As more people in a society behave immorally, that society is going to be more enslaved. So, as the bullet point explains, is the vice versa. People become more moral, that society will become less enslaved. Let's go to the next bullet point. As a result of people not knowing what rights are and where they come from, the few can rule over the many. I don't know if that's correct English, but I'm trying to say, I'm also explaining what I was talking about in the beginning of the presentation with the 2 plus 2 is 4 and the little 327 million is greater than, or it was 3 million is less than 327 million. Talking about the tiny dot, the video by Larkin Rose. There was a real good illustration. Real good illustration of that, folks. The tiny dot by Larkin Rose. Pretty sure that's what it is. A must see to understand how those numbers work. A must see. But I just want to wrap that up and make that clear. When people don't know what rights are, where they come from, don't realize that their rights are theirs, and as long as it's a right and does not initiate harm to another sentient being, they own that, and no one can take that from them. I mean, the only way somebody can appear to take that from you if they engage in violence against you and put you under duress to get you to either not engage in that behavior, or when you engage in that behavior, they engage in violence against you, assaulting you, kidnapping you, human trafficking you, arrest, jailing you. So I want to be clear on that. That's really the big one. That's why you get the 327 million being ruled by 3 million. Once again, you know, those numbers are just to try to show you the numbers. It's a big disparity. That's the point. It's a big disparity. And that's how that works. You can't defend your rights when you don't even know what your rights are and how they work and where they come from. You can't. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. I'm going to make another video presentation about laws. We're going to talk about laws. So let's go to the next video. The next bullet point. Subjective and situational rights can be owned as long as the behaviors align with fundamental universal laws. Okay? So you can own your subjective and situational rights as long as they're as long as they're aligned. This is my take on it, okay? This is my take on it. Look, let me tell you something, folks. You think you can do this better, please go out and start doing this, okay? You think you can do this better, please start going out and doing this, because this is tough stuff. This is not easy stuff. Once again, natural laws, it's not a religion. It's not just, okay, don't initiate harm to another sentient being. Okay, I got it. No need to further explore into this. Now I'll just go sit in a church and have some church leader spew a bunch of garbage at me from some book. Okay, and don't misunderstand me. The Bible's the greatest story ever told. It's just you got to know and understand the Bible, and it's about knowing, not just believing. Okay, but I don't want to get too much into that. What I want to talk about, is just this bullet point here, and that's the subjective and situational. You can own a subjective and situational right, even if someone else thinks it's wrong. Okay. Now this gets real tricky when it comes to mathematics, because I'm just going to stick this in here. How much time? I don't want to take too long with this. Whoops. I don't want to take too long with this, but just something to think about. Let's say I was measuring for the window and I measured the window wrong. We're back to what I talked about earlier, the construction site hypothetical. Okay. Mathematics is a principle, and if I'm not measuring something right mathematically, I don't know. I can't really own that. See, this is hard. But of course, you can say it's subjective because that person's saying, "Hey, I want this window to be this measurement." But the measurement itself in the mathematics, that's objective. That's a universal principle. Mathematics, folks, mathematics is universal. Our universe is mathematics, our universe is physics, and our universe is universal laws of behavior as well. Beings with the higher capability for intelligence abide by in order to not destroy themselves. So that's a tough one. I just wanted to just throw that out there, but I'll say this once again. When it comes to the subjective and the situational, as long as a person's behavior is not initiating or supporting the initiation of harm to another sentient being, then it's a right. And even if someone else thinks it's a wrong, I guess we'll go back to the measuring hypothetical. Let's say, I measure it a certain way and the boss comes up and says, no, that's not the right measurement. I say I can maybe still own that because I'm not arguing. I'm not saying I want to change the way mathematics works with measuring. I would just say I think the measurement should be this, and I can own that. I would say, I think, but that's just tough stuff. But the boss may say, no, this is the measurement I want, and then the boss is going to say, look, I'm the boss. This is the measurement I want. What are you going to do? And so, just stuff to think about, folks. I'll tell you honestly, I started doing this video presentation, and since I've gone through it, I've realized so many things that I need to work on more, because this is tough stuff, man. This is not easy stuff. This isn't stuff you just figure out in a day. It takes people a lifetime to go on this journey. So, but in the case of, let's say, in the case of the skillet, the pan, I'm cooking some food, and I add the amount of lemon and marsala wine that I think should be added to the mushroom marsala. I like to make a mushroom marsala sauce. It's pretty good. Garlic, mushrooms, sun-dried tomatoes with some roasted red peppers, garlic, I don't know if I mentioned that, lemon, and marsala wine with mashed potatoes. I like that. But say, the person doesn't like it, that I serve it to. There's too much lemon in it, the person says. But I can say, I don't think there's lemon in it. I don't think there's too much lemon in it. I can own that. I can own that because, okay, maybe I did it subjectively wrong or situationally wrong, but I didn't initiate harm to another sentient being or support the initiation of harm to another sentient being, so I can own that right. So that is a right, but it's still wrong. Subjective wrong. That's getting into some tough stuff and situational wrongs. Once again, just keep in mind, stick with the base. As long as the behavior doesn't initiate harm to another sentient being or support the initiation of harm to another sentient being, then it's not, it's a right, it's correct, and you can own that, and you own that, and no one has the right to take that from you. Let's move on. I don't want to make this too long. Let's go to the next bullet point. Self-defense is not an initiation of aggression. I want to be very clear with that. Folks, get them before they get us. It's not self-defense. That's an act of aggression. Let's go, the whole idea of let's go over to these Middle Eastern countries and get these so-called terrorists before they get us. Nope. Sorry, folks. That's not self-defense. That's an act of aggression. That's violence. Deal with it. Self-defense is the act of using physical force to repel an attack during an immediate attack. It's not somebody threatening me and then I decide to, some guy threatens me and I decide to go over his house at 4 in the morning and wait for him to, get up and go to work, and then I blow him away and try to say that's self-defense. It's not self-defense, folks. It's an act of aggression. It's violence. So I just want to be clear about that. And I just want to also mention that a lot of this stuff I've talked about in my natural law presentation, in my natural law podcast series on Anchor, Spotify. We're also on my website. And let's go to the final bullet point. Nobody's perfect. Enlightenment is a journey, folks. The pie graph I made with the completely immoral, somewhat immoral, partially immoral, I think it was, I forget, and moral. That's really kind of defines really what the journey is about. Going from completely immoral to partially immoral to completely immoral to somewhat immoral to partially immoral to moral, which even moral, nobody ever gets to completely moral. Only the Creator's perfect, folks. Okay, only the Creator's perfect, and I have a long way to go myself. This is a journey for me. I've said this before in my videos, said this before in my podcast. This is a journey for me as well. Nobody's perfect. It's not what this is about. Okay? I was just trying to divide it to make the pie graph look a little cooler, I guess. Just a little working on my graphics. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have good value and meaning. It absolutely does. What would be a moral person? I guess a person, I would say what would be moral is someone really, I would say someone who's learning, understanding, and working to align their life with natural law and spread the word of natural law and going on that journey of reducing harm. I'd say that would be the moral category. And 33 million, I don't know about that one. But I say that's I say we're going to wrap it up here. So I don't know if anybody actually watched this video at all or even watched it all the way through, I commend you, man, because I don't know how many people are going to view this video at all, if not watch it all the way through. So let's wrap it up. That's going to be it.